Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we get to talk about one of my favorite things, the box office. And this weekend was so phenomenal that, well, we got 4 straight weekends of Spider-Man winning. That's right, and it didn't start off that way. They wanted to sell you a different story, but I'm telling you right now, none of you bought it, and good for you. As we look at a third-place Odyssey and a lot of other films just kind of in the wow, I'm surprised to see you here category. So, stick around. Here we go. So, of course, the title there is Spider-Man wins its 4th weekend, but it wasn't without competition. Supposedly, Insidious was out of the furthers follow-up to last year's film, and it hunts down a $3 million preview. That's not really a lot to talk about. It's a weird Thursday low for a film that didn't cost a lot, but really didn't excite anybody either. Look, horror films have been doing very well at the box office, and congratulations to it for starting off well. Except that, was that really good? When you take a look at the box office from our friends over at Variety, the box office looks at a first place Friday with 10.6 million, but Spider-Man Brand New Day would definitely win the weekend. Well, of course. I mean, again, you had a $3 million head start for a Friday because of the previews. And this is where all the numbers get jumbled up, and they continue to because of the antiquated format with which we approach the box office. This is a problem we need to fix if we're going to start, well, being honest about what these numbers really are and why you see significant fall-offs between the first Friday and second Friday, which doesn't deserve to be there. In fact, it can even make the rest of the weekend look worse, which is disadvantageous to say the least. Regardless, you ended up with Sony having a double feature 1-2 punch between Spider-Man Brand New Day at 36 million plus, which it certainly exceeded, and Insidious 6, which they projected at a 23 million plus opening. These numbers, again, need to be adjusted upwards, and likely will, not just from the numbers I'm about to show you from the numbers towards the end of the video, but also because let's just say they always get revised up for the most part. There are some that do get revised down. It just doesn't happen as frequently unless it's a holdover. Holdovers don't usually adjust up unless you're Spider-Man or some of the other highly valued properties that we've been talking about over the course of the last few weeks. But look, let's jump into a real story from our friends over at That Park Place and our author, Trevor Denning over there, who's doing a beautiful job. Holland personally on Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to make over $100 million for Brand New Day. That's a payday, and it's a good one. In fact, I would say that Tom Holland is one of the people responsible for this summer's box office. Between the Odyssey and Spider-Man Brand New Day, he really brought out the numbers. And look, he was going to get paid the $20 million he was worth anyway, but unlike Zendaya, who only made $8 million for Spider-Man, he really got a back end that he absolutely deserves. Now, you could say that Zendaya also pulled in the numbers, but not for herself personally. And look, I'm sorry, for me, money is a scoreboard, at least in the movie business, and I'm not sure many people would argue. And yet, according to the story, Spider-Man Brand New Day continues filling movie theaters. It's not just popcorn sellers who have reason to celebrate. Tom Holland is expected to make more than $100 million for his 4th solo adventure as Peter Parker. The staggering total places Holland among Hollywood's highest-paid stars and confirms his status as one of Marvel Cinematic Universe's most valuable performers, which I don't think anybody would argue. In fact, I would say that if they don't figure out a way to shoehorn him into Doomsday, that film is certainly doomed. Regardless, Spider-Man was swinging into the 4th weekend victory, in topping the Insidious sequel, which it was always going to do in ruthless fashion, let's say. Let's be honest about it in order to make the video as quick as possible. And all of these headlines mean little. It comes down to the bottom line, and I think you'll agree. From the numbers, the domestic numbers themselves reveal the truth. Spider-Man Brand New Day sitting at 39 million, down only 45% from the previous weekend in its 24th day of release, technically 25 or 26 if you saw a preview screening that was outside of the original preview date. Regardless, that puts the total gross domestically at $854 million in that time, almost 855. And I would go out on a limb and say it'll be at 855 by the time we wake up Tuesday morning, because they'll have a chance to revise the numbers for Monday. And they should, because these numbers are going to come in a little bit lower because they're just estimates. That's the other thing most people don't understand about these early box office numbers that we get out there in the world. And at the same time, Insidious certainly did finish in second place, despite the fact that it was only in 3,300 theaters, coming out at 25.3 million with an excellent domestic start in 4 days. These are the reasons why I really want to adjust the preview numbers and the Friday numbers, and I think we need a other day that we count as a box office day for previews. I think that having it be there and then having to back it out or pretend like it doesn't exist is disadvantageous to studios, no matter what they think. Now, the Odyssey did very well, staying in third place after being in second place last weekend at 19.5 million, bringing its domestic total to 539 million. And again, congratulations to them and Nolan, and to anybody who thought that, well, this film was going to be a multi-billion-dollar winner. I think getting to $1 billion was a little slower than a lot of us expected. And to be fair, I really anticipated that at worst this could figure into a $850 million performer, and it somehow beat that. So well done. And then as far as Paw Patrol goes, it settled into fourth place after being in fourth place last weekend at 9.1 million with a 55% drop. Ultimately, the end of Oak Street might be the end of dinosaurs in films. I know that's a prognostication without a lot of support, but I can tell you that Jurassic Park and this film not doing stellar. And the last Jurassic Park left a lot to be desired, artificially supported by interest in China and other markets around the globe, despite the fact that the story and, well, everything else about it was a little hollow. But the end of Oak Street at 9 million fell 57% in its 10th day of release, falling behind the Paw Patrol movie, which, again, also a dino-themed film, was really not doing all that well. Mutiny, the film that had the most controversy over the weekend, and not for the reason that you think, is sitting here at 7.5 million in 3 days of release in 2,700 theaters, and it was robbed of some exclusivity because it appeared accidentally on a streaming service well before its time was due, which globally irritated a lot of folks, and especially the ones that bought it up for distribution in other markets. It's a Jason Statham film with Jason Statham in it, and he does Jason Statham things. So there's that. Now, Tony stayed in theaters with a jump of 576% as it moved into 1,642 theaters at $5 million or more, adding to its previous over $1 million in earnings in its 17th day, which means having it in a little bit wider release was better for it. These slow start films, I'm starting to feel, are robbing Peter to pay Paul at the end of the day, and also making the earnings look soft. The question is it because they aren't confident in the film, because they don't want to spend money for it, or because they lack the ability to promote it in any other way? Hard to say, but Spa Weekend is one of those, well, I thought would do better at $3.1 million. Again, The Fast and the Furious sticking it out in ninth place with the return of the 2001 film to theaters in honor of a celebratory weekend that marked the 25th anniversary. That's why it ended up in theaters. That's why it ended up in the top 10. And that's why we're ending up with a 11th film that nobody really wants at this point. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, the interesting film out there for the flag-waving brigade that Christian Toto wrote a great piece on the Hollywood and Toto website. You want to know more about this film? You want to find out why it earned a total of $3 million and $1.9 million this weekend alone? Go read that article. It's fairly brilliant. Beyond that, everything else was an also-ran, which is basically the definition of the top 10. When you look at The Magic Faraway Tree as a new film, it didn't do all that well. It had 1.3 million in 1,611 theaters in 3 days of release, and I don't think anybody heard of this, let alone went to see it, considering that it averaged $648 a screen. That's not that good. And then, of course, Toy Story 5 still hanging in there, 57% off the previous weekend at $1 million. After that, you have Minions and Monsters, Brink of War, Moana, Six, the musical live, One Night Only, and many others that just continue to drive in a little tiny bit of sliver of box office so that they can add to the bottom line. If I were Disney, I would take the win with Toy Story 5, pull it out of theaters, and start to sell it digitally. If I were Disney, I'd take the loss and pull Moana out of theaters at 125.7 million, since at this point it just is looking embarrassing in 620 theaters. And finally, by the time you get down to Super Troopers 3, again, Disney, what are you doing? This film from 20th century was never something that was in your wheelhouse. You should have sold it to somebody else and given Broken Lizard a chance to shine. But of course, that's not what happened, but that's where we are. At the end of it all, the most important thing is how the weekend finished up. And with 31 films reporting, we have $128.9 million, almost $129 million, and this is too low once again. The only thing holding this up, or the only things holding this up, are the top three. Everything else is basically a drag in a market that should be still at its apex of summer movie tentpoles. And we need to be closer to 200 million in the months of June, July, and August especially. In fact, the fact that we are not should be more than a little bit telling. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the box office. Spider-Man wins once again in its fourth straight weekend. And aren't we all winners at the end of the day when good movies prevail? And maybe it makes Hollywood readjust their targets and their attitudes toward their audiences. Maybe they'll start listening, but hey, that might be too much to hope for. But hey, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments section down below. Are you off to see Spider-Man Brand New Day once again? Are you interested in Insidious, or have you seen it already? And finally, is the Odyssey still worth going to see? And if so, how many times? Because it's going to take a few more times for people to keep that film on its destiny path that I was told was $2 billion. You think it gets there? Again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! Just hopefully something good, a good movie.